All right, we're back and we're chatting all things international soccer. Now, let's talk about a recent announcement from U.S. Soccer. Matt Crocker was officially named U.S. Sporting Director, had a press conference with the media in the announcement, and now part of U.S. Soccer. Uh, Family, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Mhm.
Previously, Southampton director of football operations and head of development teams for the English FA. So, congratulations to Matt Crocker and his arrival to
Yeah.
U.S. Soccer. We'll
Yeah.
see what he's got in the works
I
for.
mean,
That's a lot of soccer in the United States to oversee.
yes. I mean, this is massive. I think maybe a bit of a different pick than what people were originally guessing. This is someone that comes a little bit from outside of the U.S. soccer tree, immediate coaching tree, right? It's all very connected. But when you look at someone like a Matt Crocker, he spent a lot of time in the English FA. So now coming over to U.S. soccer, that brings that different perspective as to what he can do. And I think the biggest question mark for him right now is who's going to be the U.S. men's national team coach.
Yeah.
That's the biggest position he has to fill right now. He's talked about that in the media availability that he's already had. That he's looking at names. He's talking about different people. He's having those conversations because they've got to fill that role pretty immediately. I think that's probably top of
Yeah.
his to-do list. But there was Cindy Parlow Cone was also in on the press conference and being involved there. So it's a hire that really affects everyone within
Yeah.
U.S. soccer. It's such a trickle down effect. Looking at U.S. soccer sporting director and everything that Crocker will oversee is essentially everything in
Yeah.
U.S. soccer, which is massive to think about. But yeah, I think replacing Greg Berhalter, getting the first U.S. men's national team coach under his tenure there as sporting director is going to be the biggest thing for Crocker right now.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of soccer to oversee in this specific role. I think, folks, if you're joining us and watching or listening to Attacking Third, you're here for women's soccer. So maybe you're wondering, like, how and where does someone in this role kind of fit in with women's soccer? The truth is, it's a bit of a fresh start, I think, for Crocker in this role. I mean, yes, he spent time with Southampton, spent time in the English
Mhm.
FA. um, I would imagine that he had a pretty close eye on a program like the Lionesses, England
Yep.
women's national team, and the epic run through the Euros that they had, but not too sure about the other areas in which he, might have to really get caught up to speed. And I think that's where maybe he might lean on some others to sort of get him up to speed into that. I mean, mentioning some of the things that we saw come out of, the press conference with that, obviously replacing Berhalter will be high on the list, but Crocker kind of keeping it real and admitting that he's got a lot of learning to do about a lot of different areas of the
Yes.
landscape of the American soccer here, and he specifically referenced the Latino community at one point, and as a number of things on a list that he has to really get caught up on. So I think there's the general ideas that there's going to be a period of grace, perhaps, as someone gets transitions into the role. But eventually, sooner rather than
Yeah.
later, I think folks are going to say, like, keep their finger on the pulse and say, okay, what about this and what about that and what's
Right.
what's next. So
And
it's something we'll keep an eye on.
And honestly, the U.S. soccer, they did a little bio on him, which is very well done if you want a little bit more info on him, because just reading his previous titles doesn't really tell you exactly what he did. But like um, with Southampton FC, their women's team, that started as a part-time program that he fully converted to a professional team that was rising to the top of the FA National League to the Women's Championship in just 2 years. He did a lot with youth English soccer and developing those programs basically from the ground up. So he has worked with a lot of different programs, very tight budgets. while also keeping teams successful in their current states. And honestly, with this type of role as the head of such a large organization, it's not so much what he does, but more so who he hires to delegate all those tasks to. And from the look at his resume, it looks like he's done a very good job of that. And he's done that in the past. Hey, we'll see.
Yeah.
He's about 48 hours on the job. We'll see what happens here, but I want to keep everyone abreast of that.
He's coming in a big year for the women's national team program. A little bit of World Cup energy coming in on his plate this year. So we'll see. But speaking of World Cup, we absolutely need to touch on this. The bid for the 2027 World Cup officially has multiple countries in the running, but we are going to focus on the United States and Mexico and their joint bid announcement for the 2027 Women's World Cup. Lisa, I really want to go to you for first reactions on this. I just felt like you were away. I didn't get to connect with you on this. I want to hear your first reactions to when you saw something like this.
I am so excited about this. This is massive. The fact that USA and Mexico are coming together to say, hey, we want to host in 2027 is huge. Of course, I want it to be here in America and in Mexico. And I think that the partnership between these two nations on every single level has continued to grow, which makes this bid perhaps a bit stronger than some of the others. Now, of course, it is a joint bid, and this comes after the Australia and New Zealand bid that is happening later this summer for the 2023 Women's World Cup. But you have to look ahead and understand that once there's a joint hosting in two nations, that it can happen again. And in 2026, the Men's World Cup is happening across Canada, the United States, and Mexico. So the infrastructure is already going to be in place in the United States and Mexico. It makes a lot of logical sense for them to keep it in North America and have it be hosted by US and Mexico again. I mean, I think this is massive. This is massive. I am so excited about this. I know you've got a lot of positive thoughts on it as well. I'm really, really excited about it. The fact that Mexican Football Federation and U.S. Soccer could come together and announce this. There are a lot of bids out there already, and the FIFA deadline to officially launch a bid is the middle of May. I believe it's May 19th. So they got this in with plenty of time. There's been a lot of chitter chatter around it, but it is just USA and Mexico. No Canada being called into this one, but Canada's okay with that. They just hosted in 2015 for the Women's World Cup. They were like, we know about this. We understand what's happening, and we're okay to stay out of it this time around.
I don't know if they're okay with it. They found themselves making a statement about it. I think they alluded to the fact that they weren't actually even invited to.
They weren't invited, but they just had it, so they were like, "We understand why."
So listen, I'm glad you brought it up though, because I think I'm finding myself in the camp that feels like their inclusion would actually hurt a bid to return the Women's World Cup to North America. Look, the United States has hosted, specifically, singularly, just the United States has hosted
twice
2 Women's World Cup tournaments. Obviously, everyone remembers the epic 1999 run, but then the United States hosted in 2003 in a bit of an emergency pivot. There was the SARS virus that was affecting China at the time and the surrounding areas globally. And FIFA was like, we need who's the next country that can go ahead and in a pinch kind of host this. And it was the United States that had the infrastructure ready to go and in place to host. Now, they were not the winners in that 2003 World Cup, but they were the host. So it has already been in the United States twice prior, but we're talking 20 years ago now at this point. The last time a Women's World Cup was hosted. So I like the joint bid. I'm a huge fan of it. When I saw that it was United States and Mexico, I didn't blink. I know there were some folks out there who were like blinking and like, wait a minute, where's Canada? But I wasn't one of those people. I'm not even going to get on here and lie. When I saw that it was just Mexico and the US, I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, just run with that. That's good. Canada just hosted, in 2015. We're talking just 2 cycles ago. And now we're looking ahead at just the next cycle, which is not that far away.
I know.
Let's be real. 2027 is not as far away as people think. And so I'm good with the joint bid. I think to have included Canada in that would have been something that hurt the bid. But I like the ambition from Europe. We're looking at Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany, not only putting a joint bid, but a joint bid for across 3 countries.
Yeah.
And if they were to fully submit a bid, because right now it's like expression of interests, and that's where the United States and Mexico are, and that is where this trifecta of your European countries is at as well. They've expressed interest if they want to have a full official bid. That deadline is going to come in May. But along with those joint bids, there's also been interest from Brazil and South Africa.
Mhm.
And I just want to take the time to express some excitement around those countries as well. There's never
Massive.
been a women's World Cup hosted in Africa or South America. And I think when it comes to, having some infrastructure in place to host kind of big sporting events, Brazil is no stranger to that. So I'm curious to see the interest and the bids that they're able to get around that. I remember the bid for the 2023 World Cup with Australia. Then it expanded to New Zealand. Colombia had gotten into the
Yep.
mix. They had gotten a good amount of votes, actually, but unfortunately just narrowly missed out against Australia and New Zealand. So I think this World Cup is a little bit of a guinea pig. Actually, this is going to be the
Yeah, I
first
agree.
time we've talked about that. It's the first time there's going to be a women's World Cup split across 2 countries. The level of success and how that shakes out, I think, will make a stronger case for countries who are making a bid in 2027, whether that's the trio of European countries or the duo of the United States and Mexico. So I'm with you, though. Hopefully it'll be a North American tournament in 2027, and maybe next time we get a chance to talk about the next update, it will be an official bid in place with some cool stuff built around it. So we'll see.